This was the most toxic romantic interest I've read in a very long time. Shocked and confused. Shocked and confused. This book made me feel so uncomfy. Testing. Hey. So I normally lose my voice during these videos. By the end of these videos, I'm struggling. We're starting off with this. We're gonna try our best. I might be taking breaks. Welcome to the video. I'm so glad you're here. It's another one of our monthly wrap-ups. October, the beginning of my favorite season. Does it feel like autumn here in Seoul yet? Not quite, guys. It's 21 degrees today. I'll put it up there. We're waiting. Tuesday, all right? Tuesday the 4th, all right? Temperatures are gonna drop. Anyway, that's my weather report, going through my checklist. What else do I need to do? This has been an interesting month. I think I devoted too much time to reading my Halloween rom-coms. So I'm gonna go through those pretty briefly in order to talk about the other books that I read this month. One that I finished yesterday. We'll talk about it. Quite a few books I was really excited for. It's an interesting mix. Not my best reading month, let's just say. But I had a lot going on. I'm actually filming this. The reason why my voice is gone is because my best friend since like middle school is here visiting Korea for the first time, and so I've kind of been playing tour guide, but her and she brought a couple friends. They have like a fun thing that they're doing in the morning, and I'm gonna meet them later. So I'm filming this now, so I'm not sick. This is like, I'm happy to have lost my voice, right? I have been laughing and screaming and having a good time with my friends. So, but because of that, I kind of didn't have a whole lot of time to read, and that's okay. That's fine. But I have some gems to talk to you about. And the beginning of this list, as we know, barely remember because I actually read the books in the beginning of October. I was on an airplane heading home from my trip to Slovenia. I'm very excited to talk about those. But before we jump in, a thing I'm very excited to talk about is the sponsor of our video, which is Milanote. And the reason this ties in perfectly is because I have not been inspired to write in a very long time, and something about my trip to Slovenia, stories just started like writing themselves in my head, and it was so exciting. Obviously I started taking notes, but I was like, I need to storyboard this. I want to do something with these ideas, right? So I've been kind of tiptoeing back into creative writing, and Milanote just comes in clutch for that. Milanote is a tool for basically organizing any kind of creative project you can think of. I'm obviously using it currently for more creative writing. I did, however, use it to kind of map out a trip, which was very cool as just a visual person. But anyway, I'm just like very proud of my Slovenia mood board that I created. But you basically have this online canvas and you can use it for anything. So you have your main board and then you can create boards within that. And so for my creative writing project, at first I wasn't quite sure where I was in my process. So I was looking at their already set boards, and they have for just creative writing alone, like the mood boarding, how to flesh out your characters, if you want to genuinely storyboard it, if you want to look at the 3-act structure and how you're going to build your actual plot. Like there's so much you can do. I ended up just doing a very basic mood board because I was just needed to get the feeling onto the page. You can easily just drag and drop anything. Like again, I'm not a techie person. You can import things from Spotify. You can add comments. This is also a very collaborative tool, so you can share things. It's just really great if you're working on a creative project. And again, like this is for film, this is for you're working with interior design, like anything creative that you need visually mapped out somewhere. Milanote, thank you so much. So I have a link in the description box and you can use it to sign up and start Milanote completely for free. It's just great to have a tool that when inspiration hits, it's just so natural to get those ideas from here onto something that you can look at. So Milanote, thank you so much. And hopefully we will have some writing vlogs in our future. So once again, that link is down below. Thank you to Milanote. I hope the lighting isn't too weird. I just closed the blinds because the sun was like glaring. Let's see how this goes. Diving into our reading list. The first book I read, again, I was on the airplane. I think I technically started this in Slovenia. Our first book is Ida in Love and Trouble. This is a work of historical fiction following the trailblazing African-American journalist in the late 1800s named Ida B. Wells. This was an odd one, not because of the book, but because of the marketing. I think that if you are interested in historical fiction, this was great. I feel like in American public school, we brushed over post-Civil War US. Like, we focused a ton on the Civil War, and then what happened after was just kind of like, what a mess. And then we dove into like World War I. So it was just so great to read a book about a time period I really haven't learned too much about. There were a lot of familiar names, a lot of cameos of people that I did have a reference to, so it wasn't like I just was completely out of my depth. It went into a detail that I feel like my just general American history classes didn't do. We start out in Memphis, Tennessee, where Ida is a teacher, but she's also on the side under a pseudonym, writing mostly just kind of opinion pieces for Black newspapers around the US. And this was something that I haven't heard so much about, is the like literary circles. They had a lot of like salons, you know, all these people would come to meet, and either they would discuss philosophy. Ida was really theatrical, so she was really into like getting up and performing scenes from like Macbeth and things like that. I think that was something that was really cool to learn about. But she ends up kind of just traveling the country. Her work and her words resonate with so many people that she gets requests to like, can you please come here and would you write under our newspaper over in Missouri? Could you come all the way to California? Just overall glad that I read it. My only critique with it was that we did focus a little bit more than I expected on her like romantic life. I wanted to hear a little bit more of her work. I think it did balance it well, but just the scales were tipped a little bit more towards her honestly toxic romances. Like, we're looking at Ida as like this just incredibly intelligent, poised woman, and she is dating, like, I mean, this is the 1800s, so like going on promenades and like exchanging letters, having these like on again, off again romances with guys that are just not on her level. I was just kind of like done hearing about these guys because I was like, they are just not, no, please leave her alone, you know? But that leads me to the marketing of this book, which was really bizarre. The comp for this book, so you know how books will often say like for fans of X, right? For fans, if it's a fantasy, it's always going to say like for fans of The Cruel Prince or something like that. This book, this work of historical fiction about a real woman that is not racy at all. Like, it is very tame. I think she gets a kiss once and it was like super scandalous for her. They said this is a book for fans of Bridgerton. And I was sort of like, why? I don't know. That was I post about it on Instagram, and it seems like that's a common thing of like anything that takes place in like this large swath of time, like the 1700s to the 1800s, somehow gets comped to Bridgerton, and I just don't get it. So if you saw it being compared to Bridgerton and you want to pick it up because of that, don't. But if you want to learn about an incredible woman in a way that was very easy to read, clearly a lot of research went into this based a lot on her journals. She's a big journaler, okay? So there was a lot to work with. Ida in Love and Trouble. Okay, the next one, switching gears fully. The next book I read, you guys know, I usually read rom-coms on airplanes. I was on an airplane. I read the new Hannah Grace. I read Daydream, famously the author of Icebreaker, Wildfire, and now Daydream. I'm like in the small camp of I didn't mind Icebreaker. Like, I went in knowing it was gonna be what it is. I think that it is cringe, but I think that college is cringe. I just love the friendship so much in her books. Weirdly, like, the genre is romance, but I find that I like the romance is the least important part for me. So like with Icebreaker, I didn't really care about the main couple and like their whole deal. I just loved that team and that house and those friends. Same goes for Wildfire, and now same goes for Daydream. I just did not care about the romance at all, but the text messages, the group chats are so funny, and I was just, it passes the time so well. So This one is following, is his name Henry? We're following Henry, who has changed a lot actually when he was introduced in the first book. Basically all of these books follow like different teammates in this ice hockey team at UC Maple Hill or whatever it's called, a fake UC. Anyway, we're following Henry, and this book came with a very long author's note. The author said that she feels really attached to Daydream. It took her a really long time to write this because it's also long, by the way, it's almost 500 pages, because she put a lot of herself into both of the characters. They're both dealing with Henry in particular. It's talked about that he never is diagnosed. He never actually has a name for how his brain is working. And Hannah kind of talks about that like a lot of people don't. And it wouldn't really change him if he did. And Henry kind of deals with a lot of anxiety. Again, it's not diagnosed, but clearly something on the spectrum where he has a difficulty kind of expressing or understanding some emotions. I think that this was written with a lot of love and a lot of care, and it was very personal. I related to a lot of things with both of the characters, the way that they dealt with anxiety and self-doubt and feeling like you're too much but also not enough. And just I love her characterizations. I don't care about the smut. I wrote down specifically that there's a very weird paint sex scene, and it wasn't the only one that I had to read this month where inexplicably a smutty scene suddenly incorporates paint, and I'm just like, no. But yeah, it's kind of like a tutor situation where we have our main girl who is like people pleaser, gives and gives and gives and gives. Like she always, if anybody needs help, she's like, I'm there for you. I've got it. I can do it. Even though she really can't. So I forget the exact circumstances, but she ends up helping Henry study and understand his particularly difficult professor. Like if you've ever had a professor that it's just like, I understand what you're teaching me, but I don't know how to write an essay in the way that you want me to. Like, it's so specific, but I feel like we've all had one. And she happens to be very close with this professor, so she like helps him out. Doesn't really matter. It was just a fun time. It made me feel good. And she did something, okay, I feel like in her first 2 books, the books were like, whatever, fine. And then she would write the most corny epilogue, like the stupidest happily ever after in the world. It like ruined the experience of both of those books for me. This one does not have an overly corny epilogue. Thank God. I feel like she got the memo. But that was Daydream. Wasn't necessarily my favorite, but I definitely laughed out loud at more than a couple scenes. The group chats. Just let me into that group chat. I just want to be a fly on the wall. That's all I want. So yeah. That was Daydream, and I just got a delivery. I'm gonna go eat, and I'm gonna be right back, and hopefully my voice, the coffee he brought me will heal me, so I'll be right back. Oh, we're back in business. Then I dove straight into let me check. Are you sure I didn't read anything else? Thank you to Storygraph for keeping, dang, did I? I dove straight from reading rom-coms on the airplane into my Halloween reading thing. I use Storygraph, by the way. Oh my God. So we're going to do really rapid fire reviews for the Halloween rom-coms because I made an entire video about it. I also on my Instagram made a very quick written review of all of them. If you want to just flip through, I gave like bullet points of what's in them and then my general thoughts, which I'm going to try to do a little bit more because I know not everyone can sit and watch a 2-hour video. And to be quite honest, not all of these were good. Most of these were not good. I'm not going to waste my time telling you about them. So first up, we started off pretty strong. First up, I read Pumpkin Spice and Poltergeist. This was written by 2 authors, so we had dual POV. It was cute. My only complaint about this book is that it simply was not long enough to tackle the really interesting bits of the plot that needed a little more time in order to have the kind of emotional impact that it could have had. We follow our main witch who she's just like having a rough time. She's got a kind of a little bit tipsy and she decides to summon the ghost of her ex-girlfriend. They had like broken up and pretty recently after that she died in a tragic accident. But the issue is because she summoned her girlfriend because she wanted closure, now her ghost girlfriend can't rest in peace until our witch finds closure. So now we have this ghost girlfriend trying to get her to go out on dates in order to find love in her life again so that she can, move on. They can all move on, right? So it's very funny. The accident that caused this girlfriend's death is suspicious. And so we're also, not only are we following this love story, but we're also trying to figure out what happened to cause this accident. And it had all the ingredients, and honestly, it was wholesome and cute, but I think it was only like 220 pages. And I think that if it had like 100 more, even 50 more pages, we could have really kind of dug our teeth into the ghost girlfriend, and it would have had a much stronger emotional impact. There's definitely a scene at the end where I was like, damn, if I was just a little bit more invested, I would be bawling right now. But instead I was just kind of like, not bad at all. I just wish it was longer, which isn't a bad critique. The next book I read was Happy Medium. This was actually recommended by a lot of you guys. This isn't technically Halloween related, but it does have another ghost, so I gave it a pass. Just like a cute, grumpy farmer romance. We basically have a woman who pretends that she is a psychic, but she tries to, even though she's like swindling people, she tries to do good. So like if a very old woman is trying to communicate with, her long past husband, if our girl believes that she can do it in a way that brings this woman closure, that's what she tries to do, right? Like she's not trying to just get money in a really shady way. She tries to do good. However, one of her most loyal customers has a friend who's trying to sell his farm, but every time that they bring someone over to like see the farm, weird stuff happens. And it seems like maybe they have a poltergeist on their hands. Like it's definitely a haunted house situation. So she asks her psychic, our girl, to go and do an exorcism. And our girl is like, what? But the money is so good she can't turn it down. So she goes, and it turns out the farmer is not the old retiree that we thought it was going to be. It's a young hot guy, of course. And he does not believe in ghosts or psychics. And when we find out that there actually is a ghost and there actually is a curse that might be putting our hot farmer's life in danger, our main girl has bitten off a little more than she can chew. And it was just a fun time. There were lots of goats. It was just cute. That's all I can say. The ghost was funny. He's addicted to TV. A good time if you're looking for one. After that, I read Bad Luck Charm. I should have DNF'd this. This was the most toxic romantic interest I've read in a very long time. This is about a girl who runs an occult shop. It's like a bookstore / cafe / they have a psychic in the back. Just like a cool shop in Salem, Massachusetts. And she starts getting like weird animal sacrifices going on around her home. And the police are investigating it, and they kind of think either she's a target or she's a suspect. So she gets put under the watchful eye of her arch nemesis, this detective that she's known for forever. Okay. And they try to solve the crime, keep her safe, etc. This man, Graham Graves, climbed his way to the top of my shit list. I hated this man. I go in depth in the video, in my like live reaction. He is a piece of crap. And there is going to be a second one. I don't know if it's come out yet, but this is a series, and I don't know. I've heard that either our main girl wakes up to the fact that he's a piece of shit or something. I don't know. But I want to see him burn. Like, this man is no good. And it's not just because he makes weird redhead jokes throughout the book. He was just bad news. So I would recommend not going anywhere near that book. Okay? Okay. But then I took a break from the rom-coms. I could feel myself losing my mind, and I needed a break from the rom-coms. So I picked up one of my most anticipated reads of the year. Dusty. The Wild Huntress. This is by Emily Lloyd Jones. She's written quite a few books that I've enjoyed, particularly The Bone Houses, I think is her best work. I also think that was her debut. But anything she writes, I will give it a chance. And this was so bizarre. How do I even talk about it? What do my notes say? Yeah, okay. This was super bizarre. Most of her work is based off of Welsh, either fairy tales or just inspired by Welsh folklore. So yes, there's a corgi in this one, as was in The Drowned Woods. So she just gets all the awards for slipping corgis into all of her books. She also writes standalones, which we love. The Wild Huntress is so interesting because it reads like a fairy tale. I really appreciate that. It feels very nostalgic. We're following 3 different characters. Our main girl, the Wild Huntress, her mother was a midwife, a wet nurse. She gets summoned in the middle of the night to help this fairy couple give birth. The wife was having a really traumatic birth and no one would come help them, so they came into the mortal realm and asked this mortal midwife to help them. And afterwards, once the baby is born, they are blessing the baby, which gives the fairies their power, like a gift, right? And something happens where the midwife has her own child strapped to her because she wasn't just going to leave her own baby while she goes off to work. And she accidentally touches her, and our mortal child is given a gift. So she is able to see magical things. And even though she keeps this gift a secret, she uses it to protect her small village from the kind of encroaching fae realm. Like all these creatures come out of the forest disguised as something else, and she's able to hunt them down. She's a very cool character. I like her very much. The other 2 characters, I'm not going to go into them too much, but our story circles around this one competition, which is when the mortal ruler and the fae ruler come together to show that we are friends. Look at how good we play together, and they have a wild hunt, and whoever wins this hunt gets a boon, and of course everybody wants the boon, right? Our huntress, of course, finds her way into it, not in the way that you would expect, and we follow her and 2 other characters. So I loved this for 70%. I thought it was just truly written, I can't express it enough, truly written like a classic fairy tale. I love her writing so much. And then something happens. I nearly dropped the book. It takes a turn that I just never in a million years could have expected, and the way that it happens is just like, I'm still not over it. And I read this probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. I am stunned by what she did. I don't like it, but it's a story that has stuck with me, and I think it does stay true to the like old school style fairy tale. Just let me know if you have read this. How do you feel about the ending? How do you feel about what goes down? Were you shocked? I'm still in a state of shock. Like, I can't even talk about this book because I'm just like, what on earth? So I personally appreciated it just for the shock value, because I was just like shaken. I'd rather a book shake me to my core than do nothing, and that's what this did. But I'm not sure I could recommend you like going out and purchasing it. I would give it a try at your local library. Shocked and confused by The Wild Huntress. But if you are looking for a Welsh inspired fairy tale, lots of running through the woods, water nymphs disguised as beavers, I don't know, a kind of found family friendship, like very complex characters that you really fall for, and The Wild Huntress. I love that the at the top of the book it says, "Within these woods, trust no one." And I feel like you need to not trust Emily Lloyd-Jones is who we're not trusting in this situation. I'd love to talk to you guys about this. Please, if you've read it, y'all. The Wild Huntress. I recommend, but only if you want your jaw to be somewhat on the floor. Cool. Oh my gosh, afterwards I was so done with these Halloween romantic comedies that I actually didn't even add them to my story graph, so I have to go look at my notes. After that, super quickly, doesn't even deserve a mention, I read A Ghost of a Chance, which was a novella, so it's only like 180 pages. It was meant to be a kind of haunted house, fake dating situation. Because it was so short, they literally went on one fake date. It was not the business, it was not. Just skip, okay? Just trust me. After that, I read Perfectly Wicked. This was a cute concept, but the characters were absolutely wet towels. Like they had no personality. Nothing stands out about them. It was so blah. We're following a family of witches who run an apple orchard. Because they're struggling financially, they agree to let this ghost hunting TV show come and feature them because somebody thinks their orchard is haunted. And they're like, yeah, that's fine. Go look for this ghost that we don't even believe exists and pay us. But also, please don't notice the fact that we're witches. Blast that onto TV, right? So of course, the TV host and the main girl fall in love. She tries to hide the fact that she's a witch. How do you think that goes? Really boring. But there was a surprise hedgehog. Came out of nowhere. All right? So we'll give her a point for that. After that, I read The Pumpkin Spice Cafe that I've been seeing everywhere. To the point where that and its sequel, The Cinnamon Bun Shop or whatever, is in my local bookstore. And like, I live in Korea. You tend to get like the best sellers, but to have something like this, which I thought was kind of niche, to have this and the sequel already in stores stocked in Korea? Who is the publisher? What's going on? Anyway, this was also incredibly boring. We're following a girl who has inherited her great aunt's cafe in this teeny tiny town. So she moves from the city to take it over. Her whole thing is she worked a high stress job and she just like saw the havoc that it has wreaked on other people's lives. So she's like, you know what? Small town's where it's at. I don't want to have a heart attack at the age of 30. Let me move here. And so she just wants the quiet life. But it seems like the town is not going to allow her to do that. So we're trying to solve a mystery of who is causing all of this chaos surrounding her cafe. And there's an allegedly grumpy farmer that is helping her, and he is like not grumpy. This is supposed to be a Grumpy Sunshine book. I'm done with people using tropes just to like get eyeballs on this book and then they don't actually deliver. This was not Grumpy Sunshine. This was just like kind of emotionally immature, both of them, antisocial people. And yeah, just like extremely boring. But that being said, I thought that the small town vibes were very fun. Like as we're introducing the town, I liked that part. It's not a total waste of your time. I feel like if you maybe have a job where you get your like 15-minute breaks and you want to use that to read a book, I feel like this would be a good book to do that with because you're not going to get too invested. So if you have just like 15 minutes to like drink some water and flip through a book, this gives you kind of like a cozy feeling, but you're not going to be like late to check back into your shift because you're worried about the characters. Does that make sense? Like it's very blah, but we'll pass the time. That's not really a great selling point, but yeah, it wasn't horrific. It was just kind of there. God, I read so many. Okay, really, really quickly because I DNF'd this one. This was the one that inspired the entire video, so I was really let down by this. I read The Best Hex Ever. This is about a witch who has a curse where anybody that falls in love with her has like a horrible string of bad luck. So she has just decided like, love is not for me. I'm not going to date. I'm not going to put my partner in these like horrible situations, right? Didn't like it. Thought like the whole way that she uses her magic is like weird and questionable, but also it is insta smutty. Like they introduced, I even said it in the video, I liked the main guy. I was like, oh, I feel like we have a lot in common. And then his personality, gone. All he wants to do, both of them, they just want to rip each other's clothes off. And they say it multiple times. They immediately have zero personality other than, for her, I want to touch his chest hair. And for him, why does she smell so good? I don't know. It's just, we just kind of dumped everything in order to have smut. And I DNF'd it. But then I went on Goodreads and a lot of people liked it. Like the people who didn't like the book, like me, we all had the same complaint. That it was just immediately smut and the characters just kind of faded into just being sexual beings. But there were a lot of people who liked it. So if you are a smut reader, this might do it for you. But if you are not... And then finally, this was a wild card. I read The Nightmare Before Kissmas. And the title should tell you it all. That this is going to be silly. It is about the Prince of Christmas and the Prince of Halloween Also the Princess of Easter. I also had someone comment that like, why are there only Western holidays or something? Other holidays are mentioned. I believe the Prince of Halloween's mother is the Queen of Dia de los Muertos. I think Diwali is somewhere in there. Like, it's stupid, okay? And I'm not gonna read too far into it. This was like a funny good time. It was compared to like Red, White, and Royal Blue plus The Nightmare Before Christmas. And I kind of agree. It was just goofy. Basically, the Prince of Christmas had a drunken makeout session with a mysterious guy who he hasn't gotten off his mind for like a year. And when the King of Christmas, who is a shitty guy, all right? If you really want to ruin Santa Claus, this is the book. When his dad suddenly springs upon him that he is going to be engaged to his best friend who he does not want to marry, things just go crazy from there, okay? Who do you want to guess is the stranger from the alley of the drunken makeout session? Starts with a P and ends with a rinse of Halloween. It was a good time. My main complaint is that the world building and the like political intrigue of it all is so dumb and like frivolous. Like, instead of talking about like power or, you know, like military power or having some kind of resource that they can trade, they trade in joy. Like, the holiday with the most joy is the most powerful holiday. Like, it's all so silly that when we actually get to a point where it matters, I have like not really been paying as close attention to the political world as I should have. It was dumb. It was a fun time, but it was so dumb. And I would say it's a much more Christmassy book actually than Halloween. So I did my homework early. If you are looking for a Christmas rom-com, this was silly, okay? Silly and funny and not a waste of my time. Where'd it go? Did I give it to Nathan? Hold on. Found it! After I Halloweened myself out, I needed something quick to read. I needed something that was on my TBR that I have been neglecting. And I wanted to read a physical book. I had been reading ebooks and my eyes were just kind of like, let's look at some paper and ink, okay? So I finally read Foster by Claire Keegan. I love Claire Keegan. Also, this cover is just a great cover. I know that if I'm going into one of her books, I need to be in an emotionally stable place. Luckily, I was for this one because this one hurt. This one hurt. In this book, we're following a girl who her family has just gotten too big. Her mom is very pregnant. And they're basically like, listen, we can't have all these kids in the house. We need to kind of like spread them out a little bit. You can come home once the baby has been birthed, but like too many mouths to feed, too much to do. Your mom is really tired. We're sending you to her aunt, I believe, or her great aunt perhaps, to live with her aunt and uncle. And we just follow, it's only like 80 something pages. It's 87 pages long. And we just kind of follow her as she lives with this older couple. It's rough in like a wholesome and heartbreaking way. I read it on a rainy day. I was sitting outside in a cafe. Actually, I have a vlog of it. My vlogs never do well on this channel. I think because they're shorter. This is kind of a tangent, but YouTube really cares about how long you watch a video. So because I have like 4-hour long videos, my average watch time on this channel is quite long. So if I post a shorter video, YouTube sees people only watching. Even if you watch the whole video, it doesn't compare to a 4-hour video. So they see that people aren't watching it as long as they usually do. So they don't promote my video. And so my vlogs don't do well, but I just did a autumnal reading vlog where I'm outside in a forest in the rain reading this. If you would like to see it, I also did a book haul and a TBR and stuff like that. I'll link it down below because I know a lot of you did not see it. But yeah, I read this out in the rain. I had a coffee and a scone and I just cried. So that's all I can say about this book. Again, so short but so beautiful. Like the characters she creates, like I feel like I know them, and it was 80 pages and yeah. Oh, Foster. Oh, okay. Actually, maybe this was a better reading month than I thought it was. After that, I read The Lost Story. I read this because Elias wouldn't shut up about it. He said it was a 5-star read, gorgeous, gorgeous book. And I believed him. And I read it. And I agree. However, it was not what I expected at all. So I went into it. This is The Lost Story. I went into this book literally knowing that Elias liked it. That's it. That is the most that I knew about this book. So I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting this book. This takes place in modern time, and we're following an interesting group of characters. First, we have our main girl who was adopted, and just before her mother passed away, she did like a DNA test or whatever and found out that she actually has a half sister, and that sister has been missing for like 12 years or something like that. So when her mother passes away, our girl is pretty much alone in the world. And she's like, I don't know what to do next. I don't know where to go. The only thing I can think of doing with my life is finding my sister. So she contacts our other character, who is a boy who has this uncanny ability to locate lost girls. Specifically, he like focuses on helping lost women and girls. And he's like become famous for this. He'll find people in the weirdest situations, right? And at first he doesn't want to take her case, but when he learns where her sister went missing, he's immediately like, we're on the case. I just need to pick up my partner. So the prologue of this book follows these two boys, our finder of lost girls and his best friend. Within the prologue, we learn that both of them wandered off into the woods and were lost for 6 months. And when they came back, it seemed like something happened to them in the woods that wasn't just they were lost in the woods, you know? You'd think that maybe they would be emaciated, they'd be dehydrated, they'd be hungry, etc. They seem like healthier than when they entered the woods. Like something mysterious happened to them during those 6 months that they went missing. And we see these stories of this lost girl and these lost and then found boys converge in a way that you wouldn't expect. I felt like this was a book that the kid that I was, who like loved Chronicles of Narnia and loved like especially like portal kind of magic, that girl, that young Cari, would have loved this book. Like, I know that I am still her, but I felt like this book was written for that version of me. I think it's for adults who are still kids who love stories. I can't explain it much better than that, but it took some turns that I wasn't expecting. I think that where the focus of the story was going to be changes a lot. At the end of the day, it was just sweet and quite sad, but I think that the way that certain themes were handled very subtly was just a beautiful little book. I wouldn't say that it was like 5 stars, life-changing, but yeah, I think for like the kid who loves a story, this was sweet. I wish that the emotional payoff was a little bit better. We get it's a little ambiguous, and I wanted more. but I think like because of that ambiguity, I ended up finding myself like before I fell asleep, like returning to that world and thinking about the story a lot more. So I do appreciate that when like you feel a story really linger with you and you have to kind of fill in the blanks of things that weren't touched upon. So I'll give it that. Like, as much as I wanted more, I appreciate that it gave me room to kind of write my own story in there. So The Lost Story, I do recommend. One thing that I thought I wasn't going to like about this book is that the naming of places is very juvenile. I don't know, like the Forest of Sunshine, or like the names of the places are kind of dumb. There's a reason for that. And once I understood the reason, I was like, all right, I give them a pass. That is The Lost Story. After that, I read another one of my most anticipated reads. Why have I like forgotten the middle of October? I read so many like highly anticipated reads. I don't know why I said this wasn't a good reading month. Anyway, I finally read Rain and Ruin. I don't know if this is translated onto BookTube yet, but I've seen it on BookTok a lot. People that I trust being like, oh my God, this is what Romantasy is supposed to be. People have just been shouting its praise from the rooftops. It's on Kindle Unlimited. I was like, hello, yes, let me see what this is all about. I was actually planning on filming an entire separate like reaction video to this, and I'm glad that I didn't, because on one hand, I just needed to read it. I needed to like not be filming myself reading. You know, sometimes that affects your reading experience. So I was like, I just want to enjoy this by myself at my own pace without a camera in my face. Okay? So there was that, but also, if I am correct, the series follows different people in each book. So I think there's 3 now, maybe 4. And they seem to, like, we have our main couple of the first book, and then even though the story continues, we're now shifting in the second book to follow a whole new cast of characters. Or at least focus on 2 different main characters, right? Does that make sense? So I'm glad, I was like happy to read the first book and just kind of end it there. I was worried because I was reading this like right up until my friend arrived, and I was like, am I gonna have like one eye on like playing tour guide for my friend and one eye on like this fantasy book? But it was good. I was able to put it down, walk away. Focus on being a good friend, right? So this is Rain and Ruin. I'm not going to stand up on the rooftop and shout that this is the best romantasy book I've read in a really long time, but it was a very good romantasy book. We have 2 POVs. We have a world with a few kingdoms, but mainly these 2 neighbors that are living in the shadow of this other empire that is looming ever closer. And separately, these 2 kingdoms cannot stand up to the Empire's forces. So our princess is trying to broker a deal with the neighboring kingdom to ally, and then they can hopefully stand together against this force, right? The reason why the princess is doing the deal is because her father, even though he was a great king, because of the magic that he has, his mental state is deteriorating, very similar to like dementia. So he has his on days and he has his off days. And so she is kind of running the country in the background, dealing with a council that is not supportive, and all of them want to take the throne after her father passes, because of course a woman could never rule, right? Even though her father has told her in private that she will be his heir, because of his dementia, he hasn't made that very clear in front of the public, right? So she's just like holding down the fort, waiting for her time to shine to become sultana. And then we have the other kingdom, where we also have someone who is kind of running things in the shadows. Our prince, second in line for the throne behind his brother. His brother is not interested. He's very paranoid, and he's not interested in any kind of alliance. So our prince secretly answers the princess's secret message. Basically, they think that they're tricking each other, and they're just it's chaotic. All right, it's great. If you like political intrigue, this does it quite well. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I thought the writing was great. I guess it was just the expectation that kind of killed it for me, because this was above average, but just kind of an average romantasy story. Not necessarily insta-lovey, but definitely insta-attraction, because both of them are hot people. And like, they're both really competent, which I totally get. Like, that is my thing. Like, if someone is fully competent in something, whether it's like they're a plumber and they know everything about plumbing, or if they're, my husband is a software developer and he's like a really great software developer. So like that kind of competence in your field is definitely a turn on for me. So like, I totally get them. Like, our princess is really good at running a country and commanding respect in a room. And our prince is also really good at that. And he also is pretty damn good with a sword. So I'm not saying the attraction is unwarranted. I'm just saying it was like a little quick. I'm interested to continue the story. I think that where it left us off was really great, in that it kind of ended one arc, and I'm ready to go on to the next one, but I don't need to jump in right now. Yeah, I think if you're looking for a romantasy that really focuses on political intrigue and isn't just suddenly smut city, this one does it. I did particularly like the steamy scenes once we got there. I think it got a little, not silly. That part wasn't my favorite, but again, that's never really my favorite part. So, Rain and Ruin, if you haven't heard of it yet, it's on Kindle Unlimited. I would recommend you give it a try if political intrigue is your cup of tea, with a sprinkle of romantasy. Overall, happy to have read it. Thank you for the recommendations. Rain and Ruin. And now we enter a weird time period where I had finished Reign and Ruin. I didn't want to start another large book. I was just kind of picking up and putting down a lot of things. So bear with me until we get to Intermezzo, because I'm so excited to talk to you about that. I started, where did I get to? I read 100 pages of Boy Parts. I really enjoyed Penance by Eliza Clark. And I was told that Boy Parts is darker, but something I should also read. And you know what? I just don't love reading about, like, again, I only read the first 100 pages. I don't love reading about, like, people going on drug binges and just, like, people who party nonstop and are just really self-destructive. For me, I'm sort of like, but can we get to the story a little bit? So I'm putting this down. I will pick it back up eventually, but so far the first 100 pages were just like bopping from party to party, consuming copious amounts of alcohol and drugs. And I know that that's like setting us up for something, but it's just like, wasn't what I wanted to read at this point. So that's being put down. Another one that I haven't finished, but I'm planning on finishing if the library will. I have like 1 day left on my hold, so I might have to return to it at a much later date. But I started to read Clean. This is an odd one. I'm about 50 or 60% of the way through. This is about a maid or a housekeeper that lives in this wealthy family's house, and we are aware that the young daughter has died, but we don't know how. All we know is that the housekeeper is currently sitting in jail. The way that the book is written, it's like she is talking to the police officer who's sitting outside of her cell, trying to tell her side of the story. Okay? I, for the life of me, could not get the picture of the parasite kitchen out of my mind. So in my head, this whole story takes place in the parasite house. It's taking me a little while to get through just because she is kind of meandering around. Like, she gets a little off track with her testimony, but I want to know what happened so badly. So I will continue it, but I can't really give too much of my opinion yet. Yeah, that's Clean. If you want to get on the holds list behind me, at your local library. It's good for the first 50%. So wish me luck in finishing it. And then another book that I really want to discuss with someone. I feel like this was a book that as I was reading it, I was like, damn, I really wish we could book club this in a face-to-face way. I'm sorry, but like for me, it's a little rough to do book clubs online. I don't know why. I would like to sit down with people face to face and talk about it. I read Fledgling by Octavia E. Butler. So I read Kindred, I believe it was earlier this year. Maybe it was the end of last year at this point. I read Kindred and was blown away. I'm pacing myself though. I have her other books waiting, but when I was looking up, I don't know how I stumbled upon this book, but someone was maybe talking about vampires. I don't know how this got on my radar. I don't know how I feel about this. We are following, how do I even get into this? I love books where we are dealing with a character that does not remember anything. Like when we are starting at zero, we are discovering the world along with our character. Similar to, like, for example, if you've read Project Hail Mary, where our scientist wakes up and he's like, where the fuck am I? And we slowly learn that he's on a spaceship, right? What a trip that must have been. But our main character wakes up in, she slowly learns, is a cave. And we follow her for a few months, I think, of her life. I think the story takes place over a few months. And she is a vampire, or as we later learn, the species is called Ina. And we slowly learn that she is being hunted, and we need to figure out why and how to stop the people who are hunting her, right? This book made me feel so uncomfy, and I think that the uncomfortableness of it overshadowed everything else that was happening in the book. Like, how do I explain this? Our main our main vampire is black, and she is the result of kind of decades of, I don't want to say eugenics, but yeah, basically manipulating genes to figure out how vampires can stay in the sun and not get burned. And so she is a rare vampire where her skin is dark enough that she just gets like blistered. Oh my god, I got so into talking about this that my camera shut off. So much of what is happening to her because she is a black vampire, and other vampires do not like that she is black. And that conversation was so overshadowed for me by the fact that they keep reminding us that she is in the body of a 10-year-old girl. And we start off immediately with she's a 10-year-old girl looking rough, okay? She's covered in blood, walking down the side of the road. A guy pulls over to like ask if she needs help, and it immediately gets kind of sexual. And he's like, whoa, you look like you're 10 years old. Where are your parents? And then like immediately it becomes sexual. And he's like, this is gross and weird for me, but it happens anyway. And like, it's because she's a vampire and like he's addicted to her venom or whatever. But like, it comes up so often that she is in the body of a 10-year-old girl. And it is a very like sexy book. And I could not get over that. So I couldn't pay attention to anything else that was really happening in this book. So I don't know how I feel. That's why I kind of wish I was reading this with a book club so we could talk through it all, you know, because I was so hung up on that one detail, like the first detail we learned about her, that nothing else could get through my thick little skull. If you've read it, let me know what you think. I think this might have been like one of the last books that she wrote. Oh, Fledgling. Sorry, Fledgling. Yeah, it was published in 2005 before her death in 2006. You know, I just am not sure. So let me know your thoughts if you've read it, please. Really bizarre. Really bizarre. Fledgling by Octavia E. Butler. After that, I finished a collection of short stories that I really enjoyed called The History of Sound, if I am not mistaken. And I likely could be. I believe they are making a film out of this. All right, I'm so sorry. I should really look this stuff up beforehand. History of Sound. Oh, okay, it is. Oh, okay. It is. The History of Sound is an upcoming romantic drama based off of the short story by the same name. It's about a relationship of two young men played by Josh O'Connor and Paul Mescal. All right. Okay, it's only about the first story. Okay. So the collection itself is a bunch of different stories that all take place in New England. It kind of reminded me of the Cloud Atlas a little bit, where all of the stories are so different, but you can tell that they're all connected in a way. Like our first story takes place during World War I, and then our next story takes place in like 2000, and then we jump back to like 18 something. So you can tell that in some way they're all connected, but it's very loose until you kind of get the whole picture. I agree with the screenwriter here that the first story is the strongest, and it's one that is just, oh my god, I can't even imagine watching it as a film. We are following two young men who meet at like a conservatory, I think. They're both musicians. It's like the early 1900s, so most men are staying fully in the closet, but they develop a romantic relationship, and it's just so rough. It's so rough to read. Yeah, that's gonna be such a heartbreaking film. Look out for that next year. But yeah, if you just are looking for a very beautiful short story collection, most of them were actually very sad now that I'm thinking about it, but there was just this quality to them. Clearly the author loves New England, specifically in like autumn. I felt cold and kind of lonely, but also like this landscape is so beautiful. I don't know how to explain it very well, but even just to read the first story and have your little heart ripped out and kind of stomped upon, The History of Sound is a good way to do it. And last but not least, let's talk about it. Spine successfully broken. I talk about it in my vlog, but I wanted the paperback. I have the hardcover and that's gonna stay nice. I have the paperback to destroy and read with passion. Okay, I was just like, okay, intermezzo. Sally Rooney has written 4 books. I have read now 3 of them. I did not like one. I liked the second book I read. This was our tiebreaker. This was the best Sally Rooney book I have read. I've not read Normal People. Calm down, okay? I enjoyed this so much to the point where I actually am going, once I have time on my hands again, I will be going back to read part 3 over. I'll talk about it in a second, but we are following 2 brothers, Peter and Ivan. They have just lost their father. They are separated by a 10 or 12 year gap. So Peter has always been this like larger than life, almost godlike figure in Ivan's life until Ivan became a teenager and his brother was like off living a completely separate life. They were so close and then life kind of just took them in different directions. So we follow them the few months after the death of their father, where they're dealing with a lot of grief, but also a lot of love. The thing that I don't like about Sally Rooney's books, or the thing that just like stops me from loving them, I think, is that I don't love reading about characters. Like there has to be at least one character I root for, you know, or one character where I'm like, I could tolerate sitting and talking to you. Like sitting with and talking to you at a party. Her characters in Conversation with Friends and Beautiful World, Where Are You? Did not like any of them. Like wouldn't want to be stuck in an elevator with any of them. Couldn't hold a conversation with them. Don't come at me with, oh, but Simon. No, no, thank you. So it was just difficult for me to care, I guess, about her characters. Every single character in this book, I would say there are 5 main characters. I care deeply about every single one of them. I'm gonna add another one for the dog. There are 6 main characters that I care deeply about. The reason I need to read part 3 again is because I was waiting to meet up with my friends and I knew that they would like be arriving any moment, but I couldn't put the book down. I had my like one brain cell on watching the clock and one brain cell on paying attention to this book. This is broken into 3 parts. The first part, I read it kind of like chapter by chapter. Peter's POV is very stream of consciousness. He's very anxious. He's got a lot of thoughts. So it's a little rough, the first chapter. Second chapter is Ivan. It's a lot easier to read. And we go back and forth between these 2 styles. So I kind of read part 1 bit by bit. By part 2, eaten it up in large chunks. Part 3, you could not have ripped this book out of my hands while I was reading part 3. I was so concerned for these characters. Like, you would have never seen me concerned for any of these guys. No offense. But I was just like gripping the page. I was actually, as I was waiting for my friends, I was sitting in a coffee shop, and it's like my local coffee shop, and they're doing a little bit of construction right now. So literally they broke the fuse, or they blew the fuse or whatever. I was sitting in darkness in the cafe for a solid like 5 minutes, didn't stop reading. I like held my book up to the window to get some light, and I was just like, brrr. Nothing was going to stop me from finishing this book. I really, really loved this book. I disagree. I've seen, my mind kept going back to the one review I saw where someone called it like a rare, perfect novel. I wouldn't call this a perfect novel because I don't know if that exists, but I think that she really struck gold, and so many things, so many ideas that she has kind of dropped a bit in interviews found their way into this book as well. I just love her kind of musings on things, and especially there's one interview she had where she talks about how she disagrees with the like, you have to love yourself, like the most important thing in life is you and how you treat yourself, and you have to learn to be independent because at the end of the day we're all gonna die alone, right?
I don't believe that at all. And I also don't believe this sort of like, everyone should be very self-sufficient and you don't need anyone else to love you. You just need yourself to love you. I think that's nonsense. We're all connected in a network of human relationships all the time, which sustain us. I mean, people are out in fields picking crops so we can eat. People are making clothing that we have to wear. By which I don't mean to suggest everyone has to find one person and get married at a certain age or ever. But the human relationships are very important. They're very sustaining, whatever form they take. They don't need to be conventional. They can be very unconventional, but they're not just optional. You can't just opt out of the rest of humankind.
Like, our relations to other people is what makes up us, what makes up life. And she really illustrates that really beautifully in here. As much as we don't want to be a part of it, our life is a web. It was just a really, really beautiful book. And like I said, I'm going to be reading the last 100 pages over very soon. Just to make sure that I gave it like the time it deserved, instead of me being like, oh my God, I need to finish this book so that I can cry and compose myself before my friends arrive. I would say this is a rare case where a book is worth the hype, but very specifically, like, I don't think it would hit for everyone. Not everyone is going to love this book, but I get it. It took me a bit. I was like interested for the first, let's say 100 pages. Once you get to part 2 and part 3, game over. I finished it yesterday, early afternoon of Halloween, last book of the month. And yeah, underlined so much. There were points where I couldn't even underline anymore. I just had to use like huge brackets to basically like underline the whole page. Like there's yeah. Am I in a rush to read Normal People? No, I need to give myself time between my Sally Rooney books. And I saw some reviews where people were like, I didn't want to say goodbye to any of these characters. And like, I agree. I want desperately to continue to know what happens to all of these characters. It's also beautiful. I have this, and then I have the yellow hardcover, and they're beautiful books inside and out. So thank you, Sally Rooney, for existing. Thank you, me, for giving her another chance. Let me know your thoughts. I know a lot of you guys are reading it or have read it. Sally Rooney, the woman you are. Jesus. And that's it. I have so many books that I'm interested in reading in November. There's a new Mary E. Peterson book that I just got myself in the holds line at the library, and I'm number 10 on the list. I have a 22-week wait. So San Diego County Public Library, my friends, we know the deal, right? We're gonna read swiftly and return on time, okay? I want that book. I want that book so badly. Looking forward to the future. So excited. So many books to read. Autumn is right around the corner. Glad I did this video. Wow, I really thought I had kind of a dud reading month, but wow, I read some gems. I really did. So that is October. Sorry that I'm a little bit scatterbrained. Honestly, I'm very tired and keeping one eye on my phone to make sure that my friend is not lost in a foreign country where she can't speak the language. But yeah, I hope you guys are all doing so well. Thank you for all of the love on that Halloween video. I do it for you guys, so I really needed that support. And yeah, I will definitely, don't worry, I'll be doing a Christmas version as requested. We'll be back. Allie Hazelwood said, let's write a Christmas rom-com, and I heard the message from above, okay? God, I hear you. So I'll see you guys this time next week, maybe, right? Thank you once again to Mila Note. I will have a link in the description box. So easy to sign up and get started for free. Check it out, please. Get creative. 'Tis the season. I feel like autumn and winter are just when you want to get cozy and hunker down and work on your creative projects. So please let Mila Note help you. And then, like I said, hopefully some creative writing work coming your way in the future. Maybe not the actual words, but the process. You know how I feel about sharing my work. So yeah, I will catch you guys next time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for dealing with my throat. I feel like my voice improved. That seems strange. Anyway, let me know what you're reading. Let me know your thoughts on all the books that I mentioned. And I hope you have a wonderful day or night. Or week and weekend. So I'm signing off here, and I'll see you next week. Okay? Thank you always.